What's up, guys? We are back at Jones Subwoofer Solutions. Got another amp dyno for you today. Take a guess. I'll give you just a second. Guess what we might have today. It is the Taramps Smart5 bass, the newest smart model from Taramps. It is a half ohm model. You can see there, half ohm to 2 ohms smart. And this does have different crossovers. It has the bass crossovers instead of the full range crossovers that the normal Smart5 has. So drop your guesses below. Let me know what you think this will do, and we'll see who's right. So real quick, it does come with the Taramps remote LED indicator. That is all. So the Taramps Smart5, we've got it hooked up with the dual inputs, which is probably overkill, but we'll see how this thing does. Again, drop your guesses now. Catch you in the dyno in just a second. Alright guys, here we are on the dyno, ready to run this Smart5 bass. And I did fail to say it earlier, so I'll just say it now. It is a 5K rated amp. 5K from half ohm to 2 ohms. So we'll see how it does on the bench. Sometimes results on the bench are a little different. What we're going to do is start with certified, and then we'll run uncertified, and then we'll run dynamic, which is the burst test. And in each one of these tests, we'll start with the higher impedances and finish with the lower impedances. So with that said, we'll get going. So certified, which is up to 1% distortion or clipping, and we'll just start at 4 ohms. We'll see what this thing does if you rise up to 4 ohms. So starting at 4 ohms, I don't believe they published a rating for this, but I don't have the manual. They may have. We're starting at 14.96 volts and 4 ohms. Here we go. Alright, so we got 2,590 watts into 4 ohms, dropped to 14.7 volts, and like most of the time I'm not running a charger, we're just floating on my CMAX. And if you can hear that, that is the Taramps fans that just kicked on. So we shall do 2 ohms next. See what we get at 2 ohms. This is where it's rated 5,000 watts. And we're at 14.89 volts. Here we go. Rated 5,000 watts. And we got it. I mean, I'd say we got it. The Smart Tech kicked in right at the end there, but 4,971 watts into 2 ohms, dropping to 14.5 volts. And on these smart amps, I think it's good to see pretty much all these impedances, so we're going to try 1.3 also. So 1.33 ohms on the Smart Bass 5K. We're at 14.89 volts starting. Here we go. All right. Smart Tech jumped in before it even clipped, but we did get our 5,000 watts out of it. 5,069 watts into 1.3 ohms, dropped to 14.48 volts. So continuing on now, we'll go to 1 ohm. And we're at 14.83 volts. Again, this should pretty much do 5,000 watts. Let's see what it does. 4,991 watts into 1 ohm. We'll call that 5K, dropping to 14.4 volts. So very consistent and good power. This is what I expected. So from 1 ohm, we'll go to 0.8 ohms. 0.8 ohms starting at 14.8 volts. Should see 5,000 watts. See what it does. All right, close. 4,774 watts into 0.8 ohms, dropped to 14.45 volts. And I talked about this on the last video. I may cover this in a summary on this one, but you guys would have to be wired really low on your subwoofer to even see 0.8 ohms. These are more of a stress test on the amp than they are real world. Even if you wired to half ohm, you're going to rise above it. So above 8.8 ohms even. So again, this is more of just can the amp do it? And I think we'll just skip 0.67. We'll go right to half ohm. So half ohm on the dyno, 14.72 volts starting. And I will say this was pretty much a death sentence for most amps that you would put on the dyno. This would kill most of them. So know that. I don't think this will make all the power. I think the smart technology will kick in. But like I said, I'll explain later. You'd never be able to wire to this and see this result. So here we go. Half ohm, 14.72 volts. What do we see out of 5,000 watts? Wow, that's more than I thought it would let us get. We got 4,501 watts into half ohm. That's pretty surprising. Dropped to 14.36 volts. So that is it for certified. I'm going to move our little amp meter. And on uncertified, I think I'm just going to go back to our standard 421 testing. Maybe we'll throw half ohm in there too. I don't think we need to run everything now. Uncertified is into clipping. It lets the amp clip. The dyno will continue reading, whereas on certified it just stops reading when it sees clipping or distortion. So 4 ohms starting, uncertified. And honestly, I don't think these results will be much different than certified because of the smart chip, but we'll see what we get. Here we go. 14.89 volts at 4 ohms. Yeah, it gave us more. 2,717 watts into 4 ohms. Dropped to 14.58 volts. So 2 ohms uncertified now. 14.81 volts on the CMAX. Here we go. Rated 5,000 watts. And we got it. 5,035 watts into 2 ohms. Dropped to 14.39. Smart Tech did kind of kick in there, but we got our power. 1 ohm. A little lower on the voltage, doesn't seem to matter with this amp. 1 ohm uncertified. And the Smart Tech jumped in. 4,952 watts into 1 ohm. Dropped to 14.32 volts. And we'll just go to 0.5 uncertified. See what she does. Starting 14.62 volts. Yep, SmartTech wants to jump in on that really low impedance. 4,437 watts into half ohm, dropped to 14.2 volts. Still not bad at all. Like I said, that's not a very realistic number right there. So we're going to jump into dynamic now. And we'll start with 4 ohm dynamic. We're at 14.8 volts. Here we go. Rated 5,000 watts. Actually, sorry, not rated 5,000 watts at 4 ohm. But we got 2,673 watts. Dropped to 14.58 volts. Do this at 2 ohm. This is where we should see 5,000 watts or more. So burst, 40 hertz at 2 ohms, starting at 14.7 volts. Rated 5,000 watts. We got 4,969 watts into 2 ohms. Dropped to 14.45 volts. So 1 ohm burst. We're at 14.73 volts. Here we go. There's the power. So we got 7,593 watts into 1 ohm, dropping to 14.6 volts. Should we see how 0.8 ohm? We'll see what 0.8 does dynamic. Might as well. There we go. 0.8 dynamic. Almost 8,000 watts. Oh, it just jumped at the end there. 8,587 watts into 0.8 ohms. Dropped to 14.45 volts. So this amp, it seems like if you wire to half ohm and let it rip, that's going to be the sweet spot. So we'll see half ohm burst. Half ohm burst, we're at 14.62 volts. Let's see what this has. All right, 10,506 watts into half ohm, dropped to 14.5 volts. That's pretty crazy. All right, guys, that's it for the dyno testing. I'm going to throw up the summary of the test results, and I'll get this amp off the dyno and we can take a look inside it. See you back on the bench in a second. All right, guys, we're back. Got this opened up. We can get a look inside. And it is pretty clean. This is a new design, I know that. Taramps did design these basically from the ground up for the Smart5 models. You can see there it does say Smart5 on the board. Here's the cooling fans. They seem to behave better on this amp than some of the other Tar amps. They're not as annoying. So that's a look inside. And one thing I noticed, I did watch Sam's video the other day. Shout out to Sam. He pointed out that the windings on these, on his, were loose. And I don't know if, I mean, I've had these amps, so I don't think this is a recent revision, but these are epoxied. So there isn't anything loose on them. So that is a good thing to see. So we'll go to this end and take a look at the power inputs. They are beefy. We used 2-aught, which fit right in there. And then we used our 1-aught dual inputs with the 2-aught installed. But you can see there is 2 powers and 2 grounds. And those are where the fans are installed. And on this end, I know someone's going to call me out on this. We did have both RCAs plugged in. It is labeled an in and out, but as we just saw, I don't think it matters if you happen to plug that one in to the output. There's some speculation on how those work, but it doesn't seem to be an issue if you put them both in. So in and in out, there's the gain from 4 volts to 0.2 volts. High pass crossover, or your subsonic filter, is from 8 Hertz to 30 Hertz. Your low pass filter is adjustable from 60 to 200 Hertz, and it has a bass boost. We kept that off. There's the plug for your clip monitor, and this has 10 gauge, maybe 8 gauge would fit in there. Our 10 gauge fit quite easily in there. So nice size speaker outputs. So that is the Smart5 bass. And real quick, the summary I told you I'd give you is when you wire a subwoofer to an amp in a car, you'll rise higher than what you've wired to. So you'd have to wire almost to a dead short to rise to 0.5 ohm and get exactly what you saw at 0.5 ohm on the bench in your car. So it's more like if you wired a 0.5 ohm, like this amp says you could, you'll rise into the 1 to 2 ohm area, and that is where the amp made the most power. So it is smart. It does adjust and regulate its output, but if you rise to about that 1 ohm area to the 2 ohm area is where you're going to see the most power. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. If you guys have any questions, any suggestions, anything else, drop a comment below. I want to thank everyone for watching. Sorry this was kind of a longer video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. A lot of my viewers are not subscribed. It'd mean a lot to me if you guys would hit that subscribe button. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.